He never needed to be a Robin. He needed to be himself. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys, DC Multiverse, DC New 52, Red Robin. A self-made hero in every sense of the word, Tim Drake deduced the real identity of Batman and auditioned for the role of his next partner. Batman had lost his most recent sidekick, Jason Todd, in a tragic turn of events, and in Tim's mind, Batman needed a Robin to stay true to himself and his mission. Tim was taken into Batman's care, where he spent only a brief time serving as Robin, before striking out on his own as the Red Robin. Analytical almost to a fault, Tim represents the brains of the Batman's family's roster of former Robins. As Teen Titan, Tim excelled in both leader and mentor, though following Batman's footsteps is anything but his dream. Tim Drake shows that even though you leave the nest, you'll always have your family. Just before we get a closer look, though, at the new 52 Red Robin, the tape measure, in fact, is going to tell us that the figure stands at 6.5 inches in height, or Red Robin is 16.5 centimeters tall. Drake's backstory and costume are taken from the page of the New 52, so they don't share the same backstory as this version of Tim Drake here. Different backgrounds, different bodies. Neither one of them are actually using any of the same molds. This version of Tim Drake is also notably taller than the Red Robin version of Tim Drake, bringing other figure comparisons as well. Here's what the figure looks like with the Nightfall Batman. Even though those two Tims aren't sharing the same body, they are, though, sharing two of the three following accessories. Care to take any guess as to which those two accessories are? You're very smart. It's not definitely the trading card. The trading card does feature Red Robin on the front. Now, this is an older figure. It's been sitting in my collection for a while. I kept telling myself I want to get around to reviewing him. So they're actually using figure photography here. If I bring in the Tim Drake card that we got before, this is actually taking it from, I think, the limited series of Robin. This is issue number 1. Different Robins, again, different backgrounds. In fact, looking on the back, you can actually see that they've also added, his real name is Timothy Tim Jackson Drake, whereas this one actually just says Timothy Tim Drake. The read-up is also completely different. You may have to actually put your glasses on to read the finer print on this one. For some reasons unknown, they're actually using a smaller font for his card. I guess maybe because there's a lot more to read than this one right here. Those two are obviously completely different. The things that we're going to be looking at right now are exactly the same. I mean, obviously, exactly the same is going to be the display stand. Nothing gets changed here. You got the DC logo printed down below. You got, of course, the peg that's going to plug into either one of Drake's boots. The other thing that's also the same between the two Robins is also this one here. He comes included with a staff. I'm going to bring in the staff that came included with the other Tim Drake Robin. They are identical. I think if anything, you could look at one and see the other and probably think that maybe one is a little bit lighter of a silver, but the molding is exactly the same. He also holds it in his hands, and good things for him at least, he actually has two gripping hands, so he doesn't even have to accommodate just holding the staff with one hand. Just go ahead and take your figure, for example, and we're going to slide the staff. Now, the problem with the staff, though, is the same problem I had with the original Tim Drake staff, is that the staff, I feel, is way too thick. Look how thick that is. That's going to be hard for him to hold in his hands. We're just going to slide it in one hand and then, oops, we're not drop the hand in the process. Taking this guy actually out of the packaging, the funny thing enough was his hand was snagged inside the tray, and I was trying to pull him out on one hand. Literally, I was just pulling out with my own hand. I guess the cape or the back of the wings got snagged inside the tray. When I was trying to remove it, his hand popped off. It's no harm. I mean, I was able to easily fix it. The thing about it, though, is that his hand falls off now frequently. That was more my fault than the package's fault, although I guess I could say really that the cape was also responsible for that as well. But you can get him and actually hold the staff in both his hands. It's just really hard to do because obviously, I mean, for starters, I got the handle was falling off, but the staff is also way too thick. It needs to be a lot thinner. But you can also see as well the way that the hand works. It's basically like a half piece, so you can see the top half has the hole. The other half that keeps falling off has the peg. So again, I can easily plug it back in place. But I'm sure this won't be the last time. I'm sure it won't be the last time. I'm going to remove the hand. I'm going to turn the hand, and the hand's going to fall off its peg. Getting, though, a closer look at the Red Robin version of Robin, one thing I do really like about it is the way they've painted the face. I'm not as crazy, though, about, even though I like the hair and I like the way they painted the mask, I do feel like the skin tone is a little too, like, grayish. if that makes any sense. Bringing in the original Tim Drake so you guys can see. Now, these are two extremes. Obviously, this one here I think is way too light. This one here, though, is way too dark. If they could somehow meet in the middle, I think we'd have a really good skin complexion. But like just this one, I feel was lacking a whole lot of paint. In fact, like his face seemed way too pale at the time. It still continues to look way too pale. This, though, Robin, this Red Robin version of him, actually is just, I feel, a little maybe too yellowish in his skin tone. I like the way they painted the mask, though, and I do like the way they've sculpted the hair. The hair isn't even just simply sticking up. It's actually slightly blowing off to the side. It's really nice sculpted hair. I will say, though, like I feel like the head sculpt is maybe depicting a Robin that's way too old. Looking at the way he looks in New 52, I feel like his skin face, or his skin face, his face should look a lot younger than what we're getting right here. It's just my own personal opinion. But again, I like the way they painted the mask. The paint, for the most part, what we get is pretty cleanly painted, as well to be said for the rest of his costume. Now, this is not your traditional Robin suits, in that he has now like a bandolier armor piece that goes across the front of his chest. And the notable thing as well about this Robin is that he does also have wings. The thing that's neat about the wings is that they do actually open up. What it essentially is that the cape, the wings, are attached by these pegs right here. So there's one and one on either side. And then you've got this back appliance piece that's going over top of it. That allows then the wings to have their own articulation. So you just swing these out. It's something that the other Robins couldn't say that they've had. The thing, unfortunately, about it is the way that they've angled it up the torso, it's not straight up like this. It's actually more on an overhang or a curve. So it means that when you're bringing the wings up, the wings seem to naturally want to drape forward instead of actually sitting upright. I think what I might end up doing is trying to heat these in hot water, or even maybe just taking a hairdryer, take a few passes that way. I'm going to see if I can maybe put them on something and make them flat. The thing about it, though, is obviously when they come down, they look more like a cape. So maybe the curve does help, at least from making it look like a cape. But to bring the wings forward is really when you start to experience the drapage on the wings. The wings are also really large, too, and they're made of a fairly soft plastic. I do, though, like the idea that they brought over the feature of having the wings swing out like this. It is a nice touch, although I don't think the wings are super effective just because of the way that they drape down like this. A lot of it is also, too, just the weight of them as well. For the rest of his suit, the primary colors, of course, are very much a dark red, but you've got these nice little accents of yellow. He's got these bands that almost even look like tiny little utility belts. He's got them all around his arms. He's got them also in the front of his chest, and he's got the little notable symbol there. Although it's really hard to make that out. It's super dark, and if I can actually just hold it up to the light, you can see that there's something that's supposed to be there, but it's just super, super dark. On the side, though, he has a much more easier to read symbol there on the side. It's just, I don't know if it's, I guess, a little bird there that he has. That's been fairly well outlined as well in yellow. All in all, like, the character looks good. If you like this design of Tim Drake, then I think the Red Robin looks good. I just feel, though, like, again, if you're putting him next to the regular Tim Drake, which we had gotten before, yes, he is notably smaller, but I feel like he probably even should have been even smaller still. And I feel like, if anything, they probably should have made the face a little bit younger than what we're actually getting here. Now, for the figure's articulation, he's going to have the ball joint in the head, so it's going to allow the head to rotate all the way around. Tim's head does look up, about that high. It can also look down, and it also can move back and forth as well. I guess you could consider as well the wings to be articulation, as there's a peg and there's a peg, so obviously those wings allow to move outward. Again, I wish that there was a way that they didn't have to hang forward like this. I mean, I guess the more you bring them up, a little bit more noticeable that they are. If you have them just really off to the sides or kind of just a little more on an angle like this, maybe they don't look so bad. The figure does also have an upper torso ball joint. It's actually just below the bandolier. And this bandolier is actually a separate appliance piece. It's soft plastic, and it looks like they probably would have glued this over top of his body and not molded it from scratch. Makes me think that they could probably then use this body, if they haven't already, for another future figure. But anyways, he does have an upper torso ball joint. Red Robin does also have a lower torso ball joint. The one thing I'll also say, too, just before we kind of move on to the rest of the figure's articulation, is that there are some aspects of the figure that are a lot brighter. So, like, his torso right here, I would imagine, has probably been cast in this color of plastic, where I feel like his arms, and I feel like his abdomen, and especially his lower legs, are probably been cast in dark black plastic. You can see there is a noticeable difference between the color tints. So, like, this is a much more bright, vibrant red. The things on his arms, for example, and his abdomen, or even just look at his abdomen, how close it is to the tops of his, well, I guess the top of his torso. It is a lot darker here. And again, I'm wondering if they maybe have painted that over black plastic, whereas this wasn't cast in black plastic in the first place. Other than like the color variations, again, you've got the abdomen area there that has a ball joint. You can split the legs out on Robin. You take the legs and move forward. You can move them back. Swivel at the top of the thigh. The figure does have a double hinge on the knee. And of course, you got your ankle articulation, your ankle rocker. The figure does also have toe articulation. Did we talk at all about the arm articulation? I feel like we didn't. Anyways, to go back to that, rotation on the arms. He has a swivel there in his bicep, double hinge on the elbow, and the hands rotate all the way around. I like the Robin. There are a few little things I probably would have done differently for Red Robin. First, notably, I feel like his face is way too old. I feel like Robin, at least from seeing what he looks like in New 52, Robin should have, I feel, a lot younger of a face. From the molding of the figure, it looks good. I like the wings, even though I think like the wings kind of hang over a little bit too much. There are, of course, some color variations where you can clearly see like the colors were probably painted the red over top of the black, like in the legs, like in the arms, even like the abdomen. The only thing that doesn't seem to be the case is also the top of his torso, where they probably would have just then painted the neck area. There are a few, again, little areas where the colors don't quite match up. But it's a decent looking Robin. If you're a big fan of like the Red Robin as he appears in the New 52, it's not a bad figure to pick up. It's also an older figure to be picking up. It's not one that's been out for, well, it's been out for a while. It's been sitting in my collection for a while, and I finally got around to reviewing him. Now that I have him out of the packaging, I probably will end up displaying this guy, honestly, with the other Tim Drake Robin. For my Batman, at least collection, at least for the majority of my DC Multiverse figures, I tend to have the smaller Golden Age Robin. He wasn't that small, he was a little bit shorter than that. I usually tend to have that Robin displayed with that Batman, and then usually then I'll just have the other Robins, literally like in the Robin family, I'll just have them kind of displayed on their own. I might just end up doing that. I'll display the two Tim Drake Robins, one the regular Robin, one the Red Robin. I'll display the two of them together on my shelf. Even though really this is the first time we've gotten the Red Robin mold, it's not the last time though that this mold got used. Later on though, McFarlane would release a DC Multiverse Red Robin Jokerized version, which was a gold label release. It was also one that I still have in my collection now. I wanted to kind of at least look at the original molds before we did any Jokerizing at all. So that Jokerized version of the Red Robin may still be a review that's going to be coming to the channel down the road. Back though to the original mold of Red Robin, the mold is good. The colors aren't quite matching up. Obviously, again, as mentioned in this review, there are a few little areas where some of the reds on the arms, some of the reds on the legs don't quite match up with the red that he has on the top of his torso. Something, though, I didn't mention in this review, and hopefully you guys can still see now, he's got a little bit of a bluish tint on the top of his head. I do like that they added that. I mean, too much of it takes away, I feel, too much away from the hair. But just in the right amounts, it adds a nice little bit of comic appeal. The appealing thing also about this figure is the fact he does have swing forward wings. The wings, though, are a very soft plastic, and you can see that they also droop forward. I don't know, and because I haven't had the figure out of the packaging for very long at all, if having the wings always out like this, if they would continue to droop forward, but it could be a problem that's going to be facing this figure down the road. He does come included with the staff. Now, the staff, again, was packaged originally with the first Tim Drake that we got, so it's kind of fitting. And even though, again, they're not using the molds, they happen, though, to be using the exact same mold for the staff. What do you guys think of the Red Robin? Has this been a figure that you had already a chance to pick up, or is it the figure that's now on your radar to pick up? Let me know what you think of it down below. As your video question for today, who's your favorite Robin? Even though this is technically New 52, and really this Robin didn't really spend a whole lot of time as a Robin, who's your favorite Robin? Not necessarily your character, not a Tim Drake, not a Jason Todd, not a Dick Grayson, but what's your favorite version of Robin? If that makes any sense. Let me know down below in the comments section. By the way, as well, if you guys did enjoy this video, I want to throw it a like. If you guys want to stick around for more, and you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe, make sure you turn on the bell, make sure you come back. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.